So what exactly is a mask, and what does it do? A mask lets you combine two different sets of footage into one, allowing you to do special effects such as this. Notice you have the live action frame going on one side of the room and an animation of the dog moving on the other. This was done using masks, very simply and easily. To start, figure out where you're going to have your animation and live action take place. Set your camera up on the tripod on one side of the room, facing the area that is going to have both your live action and animated footage. In the case of this diagram here, this little box is going to represent our camera. So it's pointed at this side of the room. Now, you want to basically put an invisible line down the room. Your live action would happen on one side and your animation would happen in the other. This line doesn't necessarily have to be vertical. It can be horizontal. It could just be a box in a corner of your frame. But the point is that your live action footage is not going to cross over that invisible line. To show you what I mean, let's go back and look at that stop motion. You'll notice that our animation is on one side of the frame and our live action footage is on the other. This person decided to put their invisible line basically right down the center of the room. And he does a pretty good job of making sure he doesn't cross over into the other side of the frame or where the animation is going to take place. However, he does mess up a couple of times. If we scan forward in the video, you'll notice that in some places his elbow starts to disappear. Or right here, his whole side of his arm becomes translucent. That's because he has crossed over that invisible line. So you want to be really careful to not do that. So once I have my camera set up and I decide where that invisible line is going to be, I now have to film my live action footage followed by my stop motion footage, or vice versa. It doesn't matter which one you do first. Set up the camera on the tripod. Make sure everything is in frame that you want to be in frame for both the live action and animated sequence, and hit record on the camera. Now the camera is going to continue recording for both the live action and animated sequence. You do not want to stop it in between. This is because when you press stop on the camera, you might slightly accidentally move the camera, and that will ruin your mask. So hit record. Do your live action footage, step out of the frame, and then go and do your animated footage. Once you're done, import this footage into Final Cut and separate the two into two separate clips. All right, so let's go back into, so to make our mask, we have our animation, which we made in a previous tutorial. And we have the footage of me reacting, being so happy that my coffee mug has come close to me. So I'm going to take my animation, I'm going to drag it on top of my live action footage. Now, of course, the issue is you can't see what's below it, right? It's like we're looking up top, looking down. So we're just seeing the animation. This is where our mask comes in. So what I'm going to do is select the Draw Mask tool, which is under Effects, right here, Video, Masks, and Draw Mask. And I'm going to put it on my animated frame. Now it says click to add control point. So this is how I'm going to draw my mask. I'm going to make different control points. And I really just want it to go over where my animation is taking place. You can think of this mask as making that invisible line you drew, making it visible. All right, so here's my mask. You'll notice now all of a sudden we can see that live action footage below. The mask is only showing what's in it. I can do things with this mask. I can access it first of all by making sure my animation is selected, hit the film strip up here, go to Effects, and here's my Draw Mask tool. Okay, I can invert the mask, which makes it so that way anything in the mask is see-through. Okay, so now the live action footage, if I scroll forward a little bit, you're not going to really be able to see anything, but this is my live action footage inside the mask now. All right, so I'm going to go back to before. So if I play it, here's what it looks like. All right, so some issues. The lighting is different, okay? This is what I mean by, your lighting, your shadows can be seen. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the live action footage before the animation takes place. So this way the mask doesn't sort of pop in like it did before, but it still kind of does. And that's because of me. That was my fault because my lighting got in the way, and I think my camera was actually on auto. So just make sure all of your settings are on manual, and you shouldn't have that adjusting of the light. So I'm probably going to want to do some color correction here. I can also do things like adjust the feather, which makes it so that way the line for my mask isn't so extreme. All right, so if I did the feather, right, so it softens that edge. I can also go into color correction by hitting Command 6 and mess around with the exposure. Look at that. It's like almost, it's a pretty good match actually. So now I might need to start it just a little bit farther before I come in and mess everything up. All right, let's see. All right, not bad. Again, you can see my shadow, my light is animated, so you want to be really careful about that. But that's essentially how you do a mask.